Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Southernmost Northern Garden. So today I wanted to talk to you about one of my favorite onions, and that's Egyptian walking onions. They are these here. I've showed them in my earth boxes before, but I set up this bed that I purchased from Menards for around $45. So I filled it with good potting soil and planting soil, the same soil I used in my dahlia bed. I did fill this complete with soil because it's only about 12 inches tall, so I wanted to give this enough room where if I ever wanted to plant carrots in it, or anything else, that would be an option. Walking onions are perennial, at least in my zone 6, so they will come back every year. They produce beautiful green onions, which is mostly what I use them for in cooking. And then in the spring, they produce these tiny bulblets, which are also edible. You can also eat the bulb, just like a regular onion. So there's 3 different parts to this plant, all is edible. These bulblets right here were produced on these plants last year. I will expect to get more this year from these. And I'm going to plant this entire bed. It's just a 4x3 bed. These are a little dry because I have had them since last year, and I'm hoping they come up. If not, then I will replant them when these produce new onions in the spring. You may be able to tell here, but they're already about to produce bulblets here coming soon. So that one has a little flower seed head on it, and the others will be headed that way soon. So I'm just going to get started. So this is from one onion, and each one of these has, if you pull them apart, individual seeds, I guess you could say. So I'm going to plant this entire bed relatively thickly. I did put some good organic fertilizer in here. The best thing I can tell you to do about organic fertilizer is to purchase it in the fall. It goes on extreme discount around November in my area. So I go to Home Depot and I buy bags and bags and bags of fertilizer for the next year because it's still fine to use the next year, and I'll get them for like $1 a piece. When these bags are normally $7 or $8 a piece. I originally purchased my walking onions 2 years ago from an Etsy seller. I will probably have some left over, and if these come up okay, if you're interested, I will be giving some away. So if you like this channel, and subscribe below and comment. If they come up okay, I don't want to send you bulbs that aren't going to work, but if they come up all right, I will send you bulbs from whatever I have left over. And if they don't come up, I will send you later in the spring when these produce bulbs. So they'll be fresh. They don't necessarily have to be planted at a certain time. The earlier you get them in the spring, of course, the better. But they're still going to come up and produce green onions for you no matter what. When I get all of these planted, I'm going to water this in really good. I will be putting drip irrigation on this bed. My irrigation is being activated on Friday, and so this weekend I can come out here and get that all set up. Some of these are quite dry, and I'm just going to throw them off to the side and find some healthier ones. Once you have Egyptian walking onions, they're called walking onions because they produce these bulblets on top, and the bulblets get heavy, and then it falls on the ground, and then it produces a bunch of onions in that one spot. So if you would like to incorporate them into your landscape, they're also very beautiful, a very oniony foliage, obviously, but also a great permaculture alternative to decorative alliums. And you can just come out anytime and cut you some green onions for salads or soups. I'm not being too particular, I'm just trying to find like the biggest bulbs. Like this is actually a quite nice set, and here's a close-up so you can see what it looks like. I'm not being any particular about my spacing. I just want to have a nice bed of these so I never run out of green onions. The bulbs, you're not going to get regular size bulbs with this onion. So if you're looking to grow them to eat actual like cutting onions, meaning you're going to eat the entire root or bulb, you're going to need to plant quite a lot of them because they're not going to get very large at all. At least in my instance they haven't been, but I've only been growing them in this container here for the past year. I guess this is, yeah, 1 full year. So I have a pretty good amount left over. If you're interested, like, subscribe, and comment below, and I'll contact maybe 2 or 3 people to give these away. Like I said, it'll be a couple weeks. I want to make sure these will come up first before I send you basically bulbs that will not come up. So if they don't come up, then as I mentioned, I will send you ones from this year's stock. So I'm actually going to pull up an onion here so you can see what the bulb looks like. These have been in here, as I mentioned, for over a year. Let me see if I can find a good one. So here's a nice clump. They are very, very small, as I mentioned, so I mostly use these for cutting onions, but you could use them more like a shallot or just a bunching onion type, but they're nice because they come back every year. So I'll take these inside and save them for dinner one day, and I will actually be pulling all of these out after these get going, or after these produce their bulblets for the year. I want to save those bulblets to be able to give them away to friends. So I'm going to leave those in there because these that I'm planting right now will not produce bulblets until next spring. So you have to give them a year, and we'll see how this goes. It's a little later than I would have liked to put them in the ground, but it took me a while to get this bed set up and assembled and decided where I wanted and then filled with soil. But like I said, that doesn't matter. These will come up just fine. It's still April here and the weather's still cool, but as these are perennial onions, there's no set date that you have to plant them by. So spring was probably preferable, but if you needed to plant them in the fall, I think as long as they got going, they would be okay. You can see right here actually where some fell. I didn't pick all the bulblets last year, and a clump of them fell in the soil of this container and started producing little onions themselves. So we'll just plant these in here and have some Egyptian walking onions coming soon. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned. I did go ahead and prune my paniculata hydrangeas. I wanted to show you that process, but we had some very rainy week here, and then we had a very cold week, and the hydrangeas were already significantly leafing out. So I went ahead and got those pruned, and I'll show you in a garden tour coming up. I've still got a few things to clean up, but otherwise the garden is shaping up nicely. I moved the green giant arborvitae that I had over there. I nearly killed myself in the process, but I got it up and got it moved, and it's looking great. So I'm going to keep water on it this year, and hopefully it acclimates well. It had a smaller root ball than I expected it to have, but hopefully it will live just fine and fill in that hole where that one had significant damage. Next week I will be doing a dahlia video. My dahlias, part of my order has arrived. The other half I expect to receive either this week or next week, and then we're going to get those planted in my dahlia bed, because that is the single most exciting project I have this year, and I can't wait for it to be glorious. It's just right here to my left, and that's going to be a beautiful cut garden for cut flower arrangements. I've started hardening off many of my vegetables. My peppers I've started hardening off. My tomatoes are a little smaller than they normally are. I didn't separate them soon enough, and so they were struggling a bit. So I will probably give them a little longer inside before I bring them outside to start acclimating. I did buy some organic liquid fertilizer, and I've thrown some liquid fertilizer on those last night to try and push them along. I'll have a video coming up on planting up some of my annuals in my containers out front. I'm really excited this year. I typically do not buy a ton of annuals. The only annuals I typically have are those that are in the hay rack containers on my front porch. But this year I have an extra pot and another pot, and I'm going to be planting some proven winter super petunias actually in the ground. I've never planted any of those specific petunias in the ground, so I'm excited to see how those do, because they're supposed to also be very great landscape plants and get very big and add a lot of color in the garden. So stick around, like, subscribe, stay tuned, and see you soon. And remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Bye everyone.